My name is Bruce Langus, and I'm the facilitator of the discussions.
I'm Lucille Jackson. I'm in high school, 11th grade. I do live in Armucto, just outside of it. I do a lot of art and I do a lot of activism in the school. I'm a part of the Multicultural Club and the Gender and Sexuality Alliance. Yeah, I do a lot of stuff around the school.
Neat.
I'm Kim Hughes. I moved to Armucto in 1962. My father was military. I went to this school and graduated in 1974. I went on to do a lot of things, mostly related to environmental management. Retired from the formal part of it at the provincial level in 2016 and continue to be involved mostly in the volunteer sector. I do a little bit of support to private work around environment and climate issues.
Very good. Thank you. The subject that we are going to be discussing this afternoon is climate crises and how it's affecting us both physically and psychologically. And that's our quest. What I will do, I have a number of questions that I'll use. I'll probably change some of them and add new ones. But I'll ask the questions of each of you. You will each have however much time you want to give as detailed a answer as you wish, and then we'll discuss to see how the answers mesh, if they mesh well or if there's some differences between the retired and the student answers. Then we'll move on to the next question, and we'll get through as much as we can. I'm sure all of you have been bombarded with news about climate change, about disasters and crises that are happening pretty much every day in around the world, and some of them directly affect Canadians. Some of them are half a world away. So that's what we want to talk about. First question, Kim. Whose climate information do you trust?
IPCC, I would go to the International Panel on Climate Change, consortium of scientists around the world, and that's the basis of where I get my information, and I inform it from as many other sources as I can. I'm fortunate in other endeavors that I'm still connected to scientists in Canada and particularly the northeastern part of the United States, so I have access to understanding work that they undertake around climate change. So that's really, I flavor my scientists' perspectives and the work that they've undertaken with what I hear in general newscasts or what I see in society or just talking to people like this. So that's really what I do. I dive down to what I think is I'll call it the core science, and they have good metrics, and then you can sort of see where that takes you. That's it.
Very good. Lucille, what about you? Who do you trust?
Honestly, for me, I get most of my information from usually my teachers because I do trust them a lot and I trust that they know the right sources to find that kind of thing. Because I honestly have no idea how to find that kind of stuff and have it actually be truthful. And there's no 100% way to tell if it's truthful anyways. So I normally, if my teachers bring something up, I always discuss it with them or my parents.
That's good. Do you trust Canadian government climate scientists?
Some of them. Maybe not all of them because people lie. It's just a thing that happens. But I do trust a lot of them.
Kim, what about you?
I trust Canadian climate scientists, and just, you may not like what they have to say some days, but that's the science part of it. That's the metrics. And to be clear, there's the policy derived from the science, and then there's the work that the scientists do. So I don't believe in my career that I've run across scientists that are, I'll call it, manipulating data. They report the facts as they see them, and whether they all get played out in how our societies operate is a different thing for me. But I agree with Luciel in her sort of opening pieces about teachers, and that taking up the knowledge that other people get and provide it as an education tool. I think that's a great route. But yeah, I have great trust in the science community.
Okay. I'll ask you the next question, Kim. Do you trust our political leaders to protect Canadians from climate crises?
I believe for the most part that political leaders, when well informed, make good decisions. Do they have other factors to consider, and do they always make the same one that I would make? No. But I think if they take the time to understand the implications of our climate condition, that their decisions are better informed. Are there some decisions that I don't think are consistent with that? And yes, there are. I believe they're short-sighted. But those in elected positions, as one colleague of mine who used to be a mayor in a small municipality in New Brunswick said, I'm the mayor, I'm elected, and I have the right to be wrong. Not that that was his goal, but they do. And the translation of science to sort of our political knowledge keepers or decision makers is challenging, and one it's ongoing.
Not only the translation of science into policy, but just the inclusion of science. You say that it's up to the politician, up to the leader to search out the facts from his scientists.
It is, and it's also working from over my experiences with the government of Canada and the province of New Brunswick, that there are experts. The public is paying to have experts and knowledgeable people about certain matters, and the environment and the climate condition being one of them. Politicians know where they can get information. Challenges politically is having unfiltered information. So sometimes staff in departments or scientists don't have a direct conduit to the decision maker. It goes through a system, and what ends up on the politician's desk may or may not be the same thing the scientist said, may be tempered a little bit. So I recognize that the political leaders have an array of things that they have to consider to make decisions. I think over the past generation, the importance of the environmental condition, and we keep getting reminded about our climatic condition, is better recognized at the political level and affects decisions. Again, some are made slow, some are made fast, but I think we're getting better.
Lucille, what's your opinion of the ability of political leaders to protect Canadians in this climate crisis?
I do believe that it's a very hard job to do. And some leaders definitely do better than others. It really depends on how they approach it, because I like when people get educated before they make decisions. As long as they get that education before making a very fast and harsh decision, I normally do trust them. And even if I don't agree with what they're doing and or saying, I'll trust them anyways, because I can always revoke that trust.
Lucille, I'll ask you this next one. How can we better use sound government science to make effective political policies?
Honestly, that's not really my strong suit. I honestly wouldn't know. Again, with the education thing, if they're educated, if we strive to make education more accessible to people and better, like, our schooling system and showing that these things are happening and that these things are bad and it could hurt us, maybe it could make a better place.
Okay. Kim, what do you think? How can we harness sound government science with effective political policies?
What comes to mind for me is being a little less judgmental on the debate. And I don't mean that it's a yes or no, but I mean it's an open discussion. And I think Lucille alluded to this, is become informed. And it's not always an open door, yes or no. It's a process of increasing your level of knowledge, understanding some of the complexities of how the decisions might affect other things, and then and just keep going. So 30 years ago, when climate change started to get some real traction at the science level, it was very challenging to get the eyes and ears of elected officials and political leaders to try to understand where we were going. And to be quite honest, it was challenging in the science community because we could see things starting to happen, but we didn't know what the environmental response was going to be, and we certainly didn't know what the social response was going to be. And over that, say since the 90s, things have started to change little by little in trying to address those types of things. But it's I think it really has to go down to information sharing, be a little less critical of opinions, and whether we like it or not, in today's sort of media management, we can call it social media if you want, it's just broadly media. It's like you're with us or you're against us. And for some reason we seem to like this confrontational perspective, when really we're all trying to get, I think most folks are trying to make a better tomorrow, and recognize how we all have to contribute. And for good or for bad, human nature, some people like to contribute a little bit more than others. Some people like to take a little bit more than others. But I think, again, go back to how do you become informed? How do you become educated? And hopefully the political piece comes along without the sensationalism part. It may be not as exciting for a boring newscast, but the truth is what it is, and it can make for a better tomorrow than a flashy headline. So,
So better is what we're aiming for, not best.
sometimes it may be best, but as I still like my internal combustion engines, and I'll take a while to get weaned off of those. But as the wrench guys will say, dirty oil's better than no oil. So if we're going in the right direction, I think we're accomplishing things, and we have to be careful to show where we were and sort of use the metrics to show where we're getting. So we tend to forget, for us who are a little older than you, Lucille, is you don't remember what happened 20 years ago, or you say that was only yesterday, when in fact it was 20 years ago. And so if we go back and look at the condition then and where we are now around ability to share information with the internet is incredible. And we can know about things from all over the world and learn from them and help that to influence our decisions. So that's how I see that one.
Very good. Lucille, a large majority of Canadians now believe that humanity is responsible for climate crises, and it's over 80% of Canadians believe that. Instead of education, should we now be driving people to action?
I believe that we should be striving for at least an equal amount of both, because a lot of people do need education about this kind of stuff. Not everybody knows how to take action or what is even happening to the world. And of course, the people who already do know and already know what to do, those people can take action. And we can have just sort of a system where it's like you get educated and then you can take action and you can educate other people. So we can always have people who understand and keep it going through the generations too.
Kim, what do you think? Education or action?
I think I agree with Lucille, and you need to do both. I think we've spent the last 20 years really 80% education, 20% action, and I think we have to get it back to maybe to the middle, and that would allow us at the same time as when we undertake actions in response to our changing climate, whether they be from an emissions perspective or how we live and develop the landscape in our day-to-day, we will learn from that. And so the learning curve, even though we're doing actions, is going to be ongoing. Electrification of automobiles is going to require a complete transformation of our electrical grid and where the corner store is on the highway. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Lucille gets to see it all. We may not be around, but it's
Yeah. Lucille, have you ever written to your MLA or your member of parliament urging climate action?
Ask that again.
Okay. Lucille, have you ever written to your MLA or your member of parliament urging climate action?
I did when I was younger. I've been trying to do so more now because I kind of understand a lot more than when I was younger. When I was younger, it was really just a class project and we were just told to do it, so I did it. But now I actually understand what's happening, and now I do want action and I do want things to get dealt with. So yeah, I do sometimes write to them.
Good. Do your teachers encourage that? Do you have more class projects where you write to elected figures?
Yes, we definitely do. I remember when I was in grade 9, we did a whole project on how to write a letter, what to write in the letter, and how to address it. And it was for climate crises. And we sent them. I don't know if they got them or saw them, but we did send them. So it's something.
Definitely. Kim, have you ever sent a letter or email to your MLA or MP urging climate action?
I'll open that up with I wish many years ago that our teachers had encouraged us to write letters to political officials, which they did not. So there's a positive thing about what's going on in the education system. Honestly, I have not written letters, but in my professional career, I've interacted with many elected officials and informed them about what I know around climate and how they should inform themselves. At this point in my life, one of the interesting things is I personally know many elected officials. So I can have a discussion at a little different level, and they have to wear their political hats, and I don't have to wear a hat. So I can say what I think, ask them to inform themselves, and say, you'll make better decisions if you're better informed. And that's part of what I'll spend the rest of my life doing is, and maybe that's a bit of a comfort level, is once you've worked with, everybody's just a person. So once you've worked with them, you can understand and take the time to make that connection, whether it's through the internet. And recently I have communicated with our Member of Parliament's office through the internet around climate change matters. So they're there. Lucille, I don't think it's all deaf ears. Maybe the MP or MLA is not reading it, but somebody in their office is reading it. I think that's very, very good things.
Good. So there, you're encouraged then to write more to your MPs. Another question: who has more to lose from climate disasters in the future? Teenagers or senior citizens, Kim?
Teenagers, 100%. The youth are the ones that are going to bear the that's the future, and it's not. I don't know if it's the power holders, but in our societal structures, it seems to be the older 1/3 is controlling the power end of things, whether that be wealth or whatever it is, and they're not going to be around when other implications of a changing climate happen. So I'm putting all my money on the youth, the first 1/3 part of it, and go Lucille.
What do you think, Lucille?
I agree. I mean, we are definitely going to be here a lot after everything happens too. Like, not even after, during. Because, like, we're younger, we'll live many years, and we're going to have to deal with it and somehow make a change.
Yes. You don't feel put upon because the baby boomers have screwed up everything in the environment, and then they say, "Oh, it's Lucille. You guys can handle it."
I mean, things happen. It happened. It already happened. Not much we can do about it other than deal with what we got now.
Very good. Very good. That, of course, leads to the second question. How would you feel about Canada giving the vote to 16-year-olds?
For me, it's kind of an iffy thing because there's the maturity level. Because some 16-year-olds are a lot more mature than others, and you definitely need a lot of critical thinking skills and like deduction skills and stuff like that to really know what you're doing. Because, like, of course, we know what voting is, but do we really know how it can affect us in the future and stuff? So it honestly just depends on the maturity level, I guess. Some 16-year-olds maybe should be able to vote, but some probably shouldn't.
Should all high school students be required to take a Citizenship 101 class?
I feel like that'd be probably useful for a lot of things. So yeah, I think so.
That might help the lack of information on the part of some 16-year-olds. Kim, what do you think?
It's brought. I was thinking as Lucille was speaking, in level of maturity. Perhaps we need some form of voting, and a little aside from what we currently do. But if maybe everybody from 16 to 18 gets to cast ballots with their opinions on them to inform the rest of the process. Our current democratic system is, not perfect, but not too bad at the end of the day. And I don't know if lowering the voting age is really going to affect the outcomes. Maybe we look at it the other way, and when you get past a certain age, you're not allowed to vote. Works both ways. So if it's 18, then just pick mean age, minus 18, and say when you get to 73, you're done. That would change the power dynamic in our current system. So anyway, I don't know, and I think that gets affected by demographics, and I think that gets even our current political process and how we elect individuals. It's kind of like running for student council, and it's a popularity contest, and that plays out, what I'll call the real world. Whether it's real or not, I'm not sure, but it's more of the same. And I admire people that step up and offer to take on that role. Whether I agree with them or not, I admire them offering to do that because I've never done it, and that they're stepping out to make their contribution, and I can't argue with that. So,
Good. Lucille, are you and your friends concerned about coming climate crises?
If anyone is, I definitely am. My friends, a lot of them are. Some of them aren't. And honestly, it's just not something they think about very often, which is fine. I mean, it's not their It's not a requirement to think about this kind of stuff, but I'm definitely concerned.
So you talk about this frequently with your friends and your family?
Oh yeah, definitely. My family, for watching the news at all and something like that comes up, we always have a discussion on it. It's just a thing we've always done.
Good, good. Kim, are your friends and family concerned about coming climate crises?
I believe that varies from individual to individual. My personal view on that is globally we have a consumption problem for a lifestyle that, particularly in Western civilizations, we have that is not sustainable at all at the global level. There's terrible inequities around the world. I've been very, very fortunate as a human just to sort of grow up here and when I did, and I recognize that. So sometimes in my household, they get tired of listening to me go on about, this, that, or the other thing. And I'm by no means perfect in my, I'll call it being, I don't know, in my full respect of the environmental condition. So again, to Lucille's point, it's individuals. Some share that perspective. My guys at the house and my friends know what I'm going to say. And they've had to listen to me for a long time. And some of the training's worked, some it hasn't. So they may say the same thing about me for other things too. So it's a process. It's a journey. It's going to, every new day is going to bring a new way. And the collective of who's interested in having it better, maybe best, let's just keep going. And I find some of the things is from a policy standpoint, everybody wants something to be perfect, and I'm not worried about perfection. I want to get again that 80% done, and we'll work on the 20 when we get a chance. But if we can get 80, unless the 20 is Armageddon, like let's go. Let's get to the actions you referred to earlier.
Yeah. Lucille, your friends and family, do you discuss, okay. Lucille, when you and your friends and family get together, do you discuss things like food choices?
Not really often. For me, food is, we grow a lot of our own food in my house. We have a garden, but of course we still buy stuff because we need food for everyone. But we don't really discuss that very often because none of us are truly educated on food. And stuff
I
like
see.
that.
So you're not a dedicated vegan or vegetarian?
I'm pescatarian. I only eat fish. I don't like meat. I hate meat. I can't eat it unless it's fish.
I see. Good. And probably all your friends and family know that about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So that leads us to a few more questions here. Kim, why are students, and I think maybe this could be all citizens, why are not all citizens out in the streets demanding climate action?
In my opinion, most people don't pay that much attention to the issues unless there's a local, I'll call it disaster, flood event or something that affects people directly. I don't think we look beyond a pretty narrow scope on those things. And I think from what I see in our world around, New Brunswick, Eastern Canada, and Canada in general, we live a pretty high standard of life, and I don't think people want that compromised, to be honest with you. So to make change, in many cases, people like to see the benefits that accrue to them from the change, and then they're willing to do it. And I don't know that sort of broader social perspective is there to see that things that we do are going to affect other people today and future generations in the tomorrows. So, again, I think there are some successes, and we have to shout about those. Instead of just always saying, this doesn't work, when we get something that works, let's tell people. And say, if you did this way, we get kind of one step in the right direction. And instead of seemingly a tendency, again, to be the sensationalist media cycle piece is, well, that didn't work. So then everybody stops. And bear in mind, even at the government level, or even at industry level, there's only so much resources to dedicate to a certain thing. So if we send them off to fix something that everybody's crying about, they can't do their maybe other work that was going in a better direction.
Mm-hmm. Lucille, why are students not out in the streets every day demanding climate action?
Like he said, a lot of people just don't care or don't even pay attention to that kind of things. And I've seen like a lot of people get their information from the internet, and they see a lot of things that are very negative. Like even if they do like protest, not gonna work. But we don't always have to think like that. Just because it didn't work once doesn't mean it won't work if we do it again and we do it better.
Sure.
I really wish a lot more people were out there, but it's not a requirement, but it'd be nice.
Mm-hmm. You're involved in several political organizations. Do those organizations have a toolbox that includes street protest?
I remember the Multicultural Committee, we did a protest. I think I was in grade 9, and my sister actually held a protest right outside of the school because there were a lot of racist things happening inside the school, and we wanted a change. And our teachers, the ones who help us with the group, helped us organize it. And as long as we have support and people who genuinely care enough to do those things, I feel like we could make a change. Yeah.
Did it, in the case of the racial problems that you were having, did your protest have a positive effect?
Definitely. I've seen a lot of changes around here, and it's honestly been so much better.
Wow, that's good. That's good. So, how come you haven't done the same thing with climate action?
Again, it's the support. Like, you need support, especially from people who are older than you, because a lot of them do know more than me. Because I don't know everything. I'm a kid. I haven't been here long enough to learn all that kind of stuff. But I guess it's really just the support, because I know that if I go out alone, not many people are going to listen to me. But I will try to go out alone. But the support definitely helps a lot.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you agree with that, Kim?
I certainly do, and I'm encouraged to see that there are educators who are working to support opinion sharing and making a better place, right? So there's no place for racism. We're all people. It's the same amount of chromosomes. Let's go have a good life. And some people, whatever, I think it's everybody's perspective. For some people, it's a rich life, and for some people, it's a good life. And everybody has a different perspective, but we're collectively we're all on the same team. Let's try to make the landscape we live on livable, and then make our societies better so everybody can respect other people. There's a lot of factors that pull things in many different ways, and go back to the opening part of this. It is education and being informed, and then some ways, some interpretations of facts are really interesting, I'll say. And some I think are more, I'll call it middle of the road, and a balanced perspective rather than just trying to push an agenda from those who are functionally bullies, right? So it's left wing or right wing. To me, it doesn't matter. So the greater good, I think, is where we're trying to go, and I'm encouraged to see the educators supporting the perspective of the youth. And in many projects I'm working on, I'm very cognizant of the benefits of a team and different perspectives. And just because you've been around a long time doesn't mean you have the right perspective. Because someone Lucille's age is going to show up one day and say, what if we did this? And I say,
Sure.
everybody else can look at their shoes, because they're getting paid a lot of money to think about those things, and they haven't come up with it yet. And it's going to come out of somebody who doesn't have all the clutter that somebody like myself carries, because that's what you've heard for a long time. So it's perspective, and then recognizing, do we have the means to do it? Get back to the action end of it. There's a lot of really good theoretical things we could do around a changing climate. Let's just shut everything down. That works. Not really. But become informed, undertake some actions, learn from the actions, and be respectful. I think we'll get to a better place. So,
Good. Lucille, what are some things you can do today to fight climate change?
Definitely educate people. Given the information that I do know, I want people to make this place a better world. I want to make this place a better world. I want to protest. I want to do whatever I can to make this world livable and peaceful. And other people can definitely get education. They can ask people that they trust and find sources that they trust to learn and educate themselves on this kind of topic. And they can go out and host a protest. You don't have to. It's not something you have to do, but it's definitely helpful. You can definitely use media to protest. You can just share your own knowledge on the internet, because it definitely gets to a lot more people that way. But yeah, just educate and try your best to make a change.
To get people to perform action, to become active, do you have to teach them that they are in a direct threat from climate change?
I mean, it's definitely a way you can. I don't like scaring people with this kind of stuff, because it doesn't have to be as scary as it really is. But it is dangerous. It could be fatal, but it's not always the best course of action, because you could scare someone out of it. You could scare someone just to go into hiding and just try to survive on their own and stuff. But yeah, depends.
Kim, what do you think? Can people be inspired to action just by education, or do they have to be convinced that they're under a dire threat?
I still think people like to see what's in it for me, and better understanding, becoming educated about the implications of a changing climate, whether it be financially, to your personal health and safety, to your community, I think will allow people to make better decisions, and ones that we'll broadly call it, cost them something, and it doesn't always have to be monetary, but I think it's consistent with where Lucille's going, is people, and again, we won't get everybody, but if you're better informed, you should make a better decision. There is a crisis of climate, and I think if you look at I don't know if it was IPCC or the UN numbers came out, I think it was yesterday, we're not going to meet our targets at all. So we're up about a full degree, and I've lived in this neighborhood long enough to recognize it's just not weather. There's a shift in climate. Heavens, it's the end of October. It's been pleasant for a long time, not just a day. So there's things, and I think I mentioned I listened to David Suzuki on my way in to participate in this, and he was talking about perspective, and it really struck me that Mr. Suzuki's talking about his perspective over his time through the 60s and 70s and 80s, 90s into this millennium, and the perspective of, in this instance, his grandchildren. And what they know is baseline. That's what Luciel knows today. So she doesn't know what happened here in 1970. She wasn't here. So that's the baseline we move forward on, and you can only inform from the past and make good decisions about the future. So there is a crisis. I believe the science is very strong to show that. I think many political leaders understand it. Whether they all can accomplish what they set out to do given their respective political systems, I do not know. But I really would be hard-pressed to say there's not a leader in the world, whether it's the free world or the less free world, that does not understand the implications of a changing climate on their people.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a journey.
Indeed. Do you agree with that?
Oh yeah, definitely. You make a lot of good points.
So do
Good.
you.
Good.
Thank you.
Yeah, and with that, we will end our discussion today. I want to thank you both for your participation and for your wisdom. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.